We are back and live down here in the Pulse Radio studio at Boise State University. You are listening to Blue Collar Sports. We appreciate you guys tuning in today. As always, like I said, you're listening to Blue Collar Sports. I'm your co-host, Seth Newville, joined here with co-host Trevor Brennan. And like I said, we're at Boise. It's cold and snowy down here. We are ready for the sun to come back out. But it's been a great show so far today. Talked a lot of hoops again. Big shout out to Ryan, our special guest today. Talked lots of great hoops. Not always a big fan of having a bunch of Laker fans in here, but it was fun. He was a Kobe fan, so I'll make an exception there. But no, Ryan, you did a great job if you're watching. You killed it. We appreciate it, and we'll have you back on here once again. Yeah,
absolutely. Ryan, he had fantastic takes all day long. Fantastic stuff in the first hour. He'll be back on the show. And like I said, last segment, if you want to be on the show, just reach out to us. We'll get you on somehow. And we talked a little bit about NFL and AAF football last segment. We're going to stay in that realm right now and talk about something that's coming up. It's NFL free agency. We know everyone gets involved with the NFL draft and the combine, but there's also NFL free agency, and that's where teams could definitely change their outcome, like the Los Angeles Rams. So I think there's some big-time free agents this year that we want to talk about, and we're going to just talk about what possible landing spots that some of these big-time free agents can go, and what teams are on the market for some big-time players.
Yeah, we were talking about, you look at free agency and the draft, there's a lot of defense is dominated. I think defenses are going to get a lot better. I think if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, this is when you got to make your move, because there's a lot of defensive players in this class, and they need defense. But we're going to play more on that. We're going to go through some of the notable big games here, or big names. And we're going to start with a Boise State guy, and that is DeMarcus Lawrence. He's raised the number one free agent defensive end. Your Dallas Cowboys played right down the street right here at Boise State University. And I know there's been some talk. I believe he was franchise tagged last year.
Yeah, I believe so.
I know there's been some talk about that again, but I don't think that's obviously the direction they should go. But do you see any other team other than Dallas making a run at him?
I don't believe so, and Dallas is going to let him. They're not going to let him hit the open market. They got to sign DeMarcus Lawrence, and I do believe he will be franchise tagged again. That's the move Dallas is going to do. Wow. They'll franchise tag DeMarcus. Then they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay Zeke and Dak a lot of money, so that's why they're doing it. They can't give Lawrence this big deal, and it's unfortunate. Not a lot of players like the franchise tag, but if I'm the Cowboys, that's the direction I would go.
Right. I mean, would you pay Dak Prescott big money?
It depends what big money is. I think he's an average quarterback. To keep him, I would pay him above average money. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers type money, but I'm gonna have to pay him big bucks. And Dak Prescott's done enough to me where he should be our starting quarterback, and so I would pay him and Ezekiel Elliott. Unfortunately, probably before DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I think DeMarcus, he's been incredible in Dallas. Done big things there, but I don't see him leaving Dallas. I think that seems to be his home.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be back. I have my list of who's likely to be franchise tagged, and then who I think will be on the move. DeMarcus Lawrence is definitely on my franchise tag list.
Yeah, let's go with that. We'll start with the franchise tags. Who do you see is likely to get franchise tagged this year?
Another player just like DeMarcus, Jadeveon Clowney with the Houston Texans. I do think he's trying to set himself up for a big-time contract, but obviously they got J.J. Watt. They want to pay him also that big money. So I think the Texans will probably go the franchise tag route and keep Jadeveon Clowney, which they also have another big-time free agent in Tyrann Mathieu. I'm going to have a little bit more on him. We'll get there. So they can only franchise tag one player on their roster, and I think it will be Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, I saw reports that it's like they're going to – I mean, it just makes too much sense. I don't think he's too happy about it per se, but it looks like that's the direction they're going to go in. And again, I picked Houston to make the Super Bowl last year. I'm big believers in this Houston team. They're still young. I want to see these guys come back. Jadeveon Clowney still has good football years ahead of him. Tyrann Mathieu is one of my favorite college football players of all time by far. One of my favorite football players. So I want to see him back there. I want to see this team get help and bring everyone back. But Jadeveon Clowney seems to be kind of making that situation a little fall. You haven't heard much about Tyrann Mathieu, but I really hope they bring them both back.
And more players on my franchise tag list. Landon Collins is going to be a free agent. I do expect the Giants to keep him. Dee Ford for the Chiefs. I think they will bring him back. I know he had the big offsides that cost him possibly a Super Bowl, but he was a Pro Bowler. He is probably their best defensive player. They'll bring him back. The Ravens should bring back C.J. Mosley. the Rams, I think they will franchise tag Lamarcus Joyner as safety. The Rams got a lot of
You like that
offseason.
move?
They got a lot of moves they need to make, but yes, I do like that move a lot.
Yeah.
He's a big cornerstone of that defensive back set. So I think that's the move the Rams should make, and they're going to have to figure all the other players out after that. But Joyner, they franchise tagged him last year, and I think they will do it again.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The Rams definitely have a very interesting offseason. They could be notable players and all these big defensive players names. And I want to ask you about the Nick Foles situation.
Yeah,
because this is
that was my next player coming up.
This is kind of a situation that continues to get brought up year in year out. It was almost the same situation this year that it was last year, except obviously they didn't win the Super Bowl, but yet they made another run when it looked like they were out of the playoffs. Nick Foles gets the job when Carson Wentz was it back surgery?
He had ACL, and then he had back surgery also. Yeah,
I think it was back. He was banged up, but Foles goes in there, plays like a legit starting quarterback in this league. I thought Denver was going to be potential buyers, but they're out of it with that move they just did for Joe Flacco. There was rumors that they might franchise tag him. They could trade Nick Foles. If you're the Eagles, how do you handle this situation? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, for me, I do have Nick Foles on my franchise tag list. I think the Eagles will franchise tag him, and then they're gonna have to trade him after that.
Right.
They're gonna keep going with Carson Wentz, move forward with him as their young starting quarterback, and I think they should. And since Denver's out of the sweepstakes for Foles, I think they're gonna have to look elsewhere. Teams like Miami, teams like Jacksonville, I think could be in the mix.
Yeah, Jacksonville makes a lot of sense.
Or even Tampa Bay. I don't know what their situation is. We don't know who they are wanting to move forward with. But I think a team like Jacksonville, I think it would be a very nice fit. Got a solid defense, nice offensive players like Leonard Fournette. And I think if you bring Foles in there, he'll give you quality play for a year or two while you're searching also for your future long-term quarterback. Well, could be in this year's draft or next year's. We don't know. But I think it gives you a solution for the next couple of years in Foles.
Yeah, I like that Jacksonville fit a lot. This is a team that's built a lot like Philadelphia to me, and that they're physical up front. They got a great front seven, and I mean their secondary is good, obviously with AJ Bowie and Jalen Ramsey back there. One thing they're kind of lacking is a quarterback and receiver play, but I like the idea of buying on Nick Foles. I don't think Jacksonville, they were in the AFC Championship 2 years ago, so they're in an opportunity where they could still contend. There's no doubt about that. I know they had a horrible year last year, but they could still contend. I definitely believe that. And I don't think the direction is to go out and get a rookie in this draft class and then start him right away. I don't think that's going to solve anything. I like Kyler Murray. I like Dwayne Haskins, but I don't see them being necessarily substantially better than Blake Bortles is. Mm-hmm. So I don't see that making much of a difference in year one. But you bring over Nick Foles, the guy that's been there with experience. I think that fit makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that would be a really nice move to make. I think it would be a lot of fun to see how that would play out for sure. And some other players that I think will be on the move this offseason. Obviously, let's start it off with the big name in Le'Veon Bell. I think the Steelers want to move on from him. He wants to move on from the Steelers, obviously. So we'll find. I don't know how they're going to release him or let him go, let him walk. But the team, he could go pretty much anywhere he wants. He wants money, but he also wants to contend. And I think the team for him, the best fit, is the Indianapolis Colts. They have the number one salary cap space in the league. They could give Le'Veon as much money as he wants, and he could go behind that great offensive line. He's got a great quarterback in Andrew Luck. Right. He could run all over defenses if he's on the Indianapolis Colts. I think that's the perfect fit.
Yeah, that's a terrific fit. And, I think his old teammate Antonio Brown, I think, is really doing him a solid right now and kind of taking the spotlight away.
Yeah.
I think that's nice for Le'Veon. Now he can kind of relax. He knows he's going to be going somewhere. I do want him to go to New York. I like the Jets. It'd be cool to see him with Darnold. But, if you're Le'Veon Bell, you gotta see the Colts situation is the best. Like you said, an incredible offensive line that's so much better. Their defense now is up to par. And then you got Andrew Luck, a guy that likes to use his running backs. He used Marlon Mack a lot. And a leader right there. And that opened up a ton for the receivers. T.Y. Hilton, I think, would step up his game as well. Yeah. And with a guy like Le'Veon Bell there. So I think that makes the Colts a AFC Championship contending team to a Super Bowl contending team. I think that's got to make the most sense.
And let's make them a Super Bowl team because they're not done yet. They got the most money in cap space in the league. They could sign another great player in Ndamukong Suh. They need some defensive players. Let's get a D lineman. Put him in the interior. I think Suh could ball out. it could be a 1 or 2 year deal because I think that's what Sue is at in his career right now. And I don't think the Rams will. Though I think they'll try and bring him back, but I don't think they are going to be able to make it work. The Colts have a lot of money. They're going to have to pay a lot for a 1 or 2 year deal for him. Mm-hmm. But I think the Colts, if they're able to get a player like Le'Veon also, they're setting themselves up for a big season next year. So that's the move I would like to see the Colts make. Get a great running back in Bell, so you've got a solid offense. And let's make that defense even better with Sue. Their linebackers are nice. DBs are a little scary, a little shaky sometimes, but if you need a D lineman, then I think Sue could be that interior presence they need.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Sue, but what it's starting to feel like for me is this Colts team is starting to sound like the Rams of last year's offseason. They went on this little run at the end. Got a first-year head coach who will now be entering his second year, a quarterback playing with confidence, a young defense that's ready to go, and like we said, they got a ton of money, so I definitely look for them to be spenders and get into that Super Bowl conversation.
Right.
For me, my biggest sleeper, and it might be a little bit biased because I'm a big Seattle sports fan, but Frank Clark for the Seattle Seahawks, I think is a guy that no one's really talking about. He is, I mean, if you watch the playoff game against the Cowboys, the game they fell short in, but he was everywhere out there. He was a leader of this defense when these guys went down, when Sherman was gone. Earl Thomas goes down with an injury. Wagner still had a nice year, but Frank Clark, edge rusher, really stepped it up. I really, really hope he goes back to Seattle. I think he will go back to Seattle, but I think he is a sleeper name on this list. That could be one of the best pass rushers available.
Yeah, I think Seattle definitely wants him back, and let's stay with Seattle and Earl Thomas, their safety. Yeah. I think it's time to part ways. I know the Cowboys have been on his list for a while now. I think the Cowboys could do a 1 or 2 year deal for a little bit of money. I think Earl's, unfortunately, had his injuries, and he's not going to be able to get the big deal he wants, but he could go to a contending team like the Cowboys, get some nice money, and have some quality playing time with that team. And I think he could step in and have a great presence for that defense that they need.
Yeah, it seems like it's been kind of this long issue with Earl Thomas. I'm a huge Earl Thomas fan. I love Texas football, so I really liked him in college. I like Seattle, but I do think it is time to move forward. There was a bad situation the way that ended. And they started to play better when he went down, which is unfortunate to say it was true. Another big name I wanted to ask you about, and it's a running back. Those running back markets obviously is Le'Veon Bell and everyone else, but Mark Ingram is a free agent right now, and I think it's. I mean, I know him and Kamara get along really well in New Orleans. They're good friends, but if I'm New Orleans, it's interesting how much are you willing to bring him back for, because it's almost time to maybe think Kamara could be an every down back. He's by far, I think, the best. Him and Le'Veon are in their own category for pass catching running backs, but he doesn't get a lot of rushing opportunities because of Mark Ingram. How much would you be willing to spend on Mark Ingram? Yeah,
it's a tough situation. Mark Ingram, he's probably going to be looking for the biggest contract he could get too, but the Saints I don't think should do that. They should limit as low as they can with Mark Ingram, knowing that they have Alvin Kamara just in case if they can only keep him. And I think that they are looking at that if they can keep Kamara and only use him as their only down back, use him. But I think Mark Ingram can really shake up the league. He could go elsewhere, and it might hurt the Saints for a little bit. I think they'll be able to figure it out. But Ingram, I think, definitely is a big name to keep an eye on. I think that could be very crucial for the Saints.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting piece. I think if they were to let Ingram go, they'd go get another running back like him, but not as good as him, just because.
C.J. Anderson's another name that's going to be a free agent. I could see him possibly staying with LA or possibly going over to New Orleans.
Do you think LA is going to pay him after this run, or do you think they're going to say we're all on board for Gurley again?
I think if CJ is able to stay with little money, they're not going to be able to pay him too much because they got to pay some other big time players. Then he'd stay. But obviously they're sold on Gurley. They're going to keep him long term. And let's go back to the player that I talked a little bit about. That's Tyrann Mathieu from the Houston Texans. I don't see him returning to Houston. I see another team that needs to upgrade on defense. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they could go after Tyrann Mathieu, get the Honey Badger over there, and bring some swagger to the defensive side since they already got it on offense.
Yeah, I didn't talk. I mean, when I talked about Houston, I talked about how I don't want him leaving Houston because I like what Houston's doing. But to see him in Kansas City in the spotlight, I think that they need to address their defense regardless. It cost them a chance at the Super Bowl, maybe cost them the Super Bowl. But I mean, I think to see Tyrann Mathieu there, that secondary was pretty rough this year. I love Eric Berry, but he's getting older. He's banged up. I think if you're bringing Tyrann Mathieu there, and he's a leader too. That's what I love about Tyrann Mathieu. Guys love playing around him. He's got a ton of passion, and he loves the game. And so I think he would do wonders for a place like Kansas City.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs, they need to find somebody like Mathieu that could go in there, really bring in energy and leadership to that defensive side of the ball. And if they are able to address that issue, I think this Chiefs team is going to be right up there at the top.
Do you see them as early AFC favorites, or do you see the Patriots still as
I think I probably still have the Patriots number one,
Yeah.
but Chiefs very close number two, because obviously they went to overtime with the Super Bowl champions. It could have gone either way.
Yeah, I read that they played the Patriots closer than anyone else did in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a very entertaining free agency. I'm definitely looking forward to it. We're going to have plenty more coverage on it. That is not it on the NFL, that's for sure. But stay tuned. We still got one more segment. You've been listening to Blue Collar Sports. We got a great segment. Big time news in the MLB today. So that is what we're about to cover. I know we kind of wait till the end of the show today to cover it, but that's what we're going to get to, and a little golf as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.